Hey everybody, welcome to the Jay Walker Podcast. I got a special guest joining me on the line today. He's running for governor of California. He's the Democratic gubernatorial candidate, former mayor of LA, Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa.
That's
How
right.
you doing, Mayor?
Hey, how are you?
I can't complain. Thank you for taking time on your schedule and not the campaign for to come on the show and let's talk to the listeners. Let's talk to the voters in California.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. So you were expelled from one high school and dropped out of another before an English teacher changed your life. When you look at kids in California today who are dropping out of the system, do you see yourself in them, or has the world changed too much for your story to be repeated?
I do see myself in them.
Wow.
I think anyone who knows a little bit about my life, I grew up in a home of domestic violence and alcoholism. My father left when I was 5.
Wow.
I had a mother of indomitable spirit, faith in God, a love for country, but also someone who said to us since we were kids to be proud of who we were.
Wow.
But notwithstanding that, I was an angry young man, and I got kicked out of high school. And I had led the walkouts there. We had, during those years, schools on the east side of Los Angeles walked out of school because we had secondhand books that were 20 and 30 years old.
Wow.
All of the desks were used. Everything that we had was used from other schools, the more affluent schools, and they sent them to the poorer schools and schools in communities of color. And so we led the walkouts. I had started, I was a football player, not very good.
Me and you both.
Third string halfback, second string linebacker. But, with some of the black athletes, we started the Black Student Union. And then 2 months later, the United Mexican American Students. And I led the walkouts. But I also was fighting. My grades got bad and I got kicked out. I tell people it was a Catholic school that gave me a foundation, but a public school that gave me a second chance. But
wow.
From a college prep experience, Jay, and that's what they did to us back then. And they put me in basic reading classes, basic math classes, and upholstery class, and I dropped out. And I tell people, if not for the love of my mother and the inspiration of my mother, I wouldn't have gone back. But I'll tell you a quick story, and that's why I do believe in these kids. I was lost. I was on drugs. I was, dropped out of school. I was a bad boy. And one night I come home after a big fight, and I was full of blood. And a few weeks before that, I'd been stabbed with a screwdriver, so my mother thought I had been stabbed. And I said, no, it was the other guy's blood. And in the morning, she saw a bandage on my arm, and she said, what's that? And it was my third tattoo. And my first one was at 10 inside of my elbow. The other one was at 15. And then the third one, Born to Raise Hell, was at 16. And when she saw it, she started to cry because I was dropped out, was fighting. And she said, you don't believe in you, but I believe in you for greatness, and you don't even know it. And she just walked out. And, I didn't listen to her. I was just a bad boy, but it stuck in my head. And I went back to school that following September. I had a great Jewish teacher who had me in basic reading class and saw that I could read better than that. So he put me in a class. And so, when I see these kids who have dropped out or don't believe any longer in the system or in anything, frankly,
Right.
I see myself in those kids. I see myself in those kids.
Wow. Mr. Mayor, you ran for governor in 2018. Most people with your resume and a $1.4 million consultant income will stay in the private life sector and enjoy the good life. Why would you put your net back on the chopping block? Is this about finishing what you started, or is it an ego thing?
God is good, and I live in a great country. And it's greater still because there was a Voting Rights Act and a Civil Rights Act that opened up the country to me. And yes, after I left the mayor's race, by the way, New York Times front page, Villaraigosa, no job, no house, no car. I had gotten divorced, so I gave my wife a house with my kids at the time. I didn't have a car because the city provides a car. And I didn't have a job because I was focused on my job till the last minute.
Wow.
So I tell people, yes, I've done well, but I'm coming back because a lot of what I said in 2018 has happened. At the time, I said we have the largest economy in the United States, the fourth largest economy in the world, with the highest poverty rate.
Yes.
Today, it's still the fourth largest economy in the world, and we're tied with Louisiana for the highest poverty rate.
Wow.
And so I've said, the next governor has got to finally figure it out. Democrats have been in charge since 1998. This affordability problem where people can't afford rent, gas, and utilities has everything to do with one thing. It's just too expensive in this state.
Yeah.
The next governor's got to do a lot more to bring down the cost of living. And, I've actually done it before. Jay, you said it. I was mayor of LA. But what you didn't say was I was Speaker of the Assembly before that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we need somebody who's a proven problem solver, someone who has done it before, someone who understands that to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yes.
And we have to push back against this notion that it's okay to be the fourth largest economy in the world and at the same time have the highest poverty rate. And I don't believe that those two things, one is fine. The other one is acceptable.
Wow. So speaking of Mayor of LA, how did the Karen Bass endorsement make you feel?
Well, Karen Bass and I came out of the civil rights movement. I said that I started the Black Student Union with some of the football players, and then the United Mexican American Students, which later became MECHA. That a lot of college campuses have those MECHA chapters, Latino student organization.
Sure.
We were fighting, for equal school facilities, teachers that have experience instead of the teachers that had gotten thrown out of other places. We were fighting for, equality. And so Karen and I met in 1973 on the Coalition Against Police Abuse.
Wow.
She came from South LA, where at the time mostly African American, and I came from the East Side. And right away, we took off because we both believed that when those two communities are together, we win. When they're fighting with each other, we lose. So we were involved in the Coalition Against Police Abuse, and we've been friends ever since. So her endorsement meant a lot. We go way, way back. We believe that America's better because of the civil rights movement, but we also believe the work's not done.
Yeah. You're calling yourself the grown-up in the room for this 2026 race. Who in the current field is the child, and what mess are they making that only you can clean up?
You're saying who in the current race is a challenge?
No, so you're calling yourself the grown-up in the room for this 2026 race. In your opinion, who in this current field is the child, and what mess are they making that only you can clean up?
Well, let me answer it this way, Jay. I'm the only grown-up in this race, and I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
I was Speaker of the Assembly. I balanced two budgets when we were a red state. We had a Republican governor. We only had 42 votes, which is one more than a majority. I balanced the budget with a surplus with him. The next year, I worked hard and we increased that majority. We became a blue state. So we went from red to blue. And at that time, uh, I balanced the budget with a Democratic governor with only 48 votes, which means I needed 6 more to get a 2/3 vote and pass a budget.
Wow.
I worked with Republicans. I worked with Democrats. You know, at the end of the day, I've been Speaker of the California State Assembly. And by the way, when I was Speaker, toughest assault weapons ban in America, the largest expansion of healthcare, healthy families. I authored that health program for poor kids.
Wow.
The biggest effort to clean up the air since the Clean Air Act until a few years ago when they passed other initiatives. I was focused on the job. When I was mayor, LA is the second largest city in the country. It's larger than San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and San Diego, the next 4 largest cities. It was the most violent big city in America. Crime went down nearly 50% with constitutional and community policing. Along with New York, it was the safest big city. But we also did other things, expanded after school programs, expanded summer youth jobs, because I was one of those kids. We started out with, talking to those kids that are kind of like dropped out of and don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
I was one of those kids. So we focused on all of the above approach to safety in our neighborhoods. Watts, for the first time since 1951, went without a homicide for 18 months.
Wow.
We were focused on that. 1 out of 3 schools were failing. By the time I left, it was 1 out of 10, a 60% increase in the graduation rate. We did more infrastructure than any city in America. So when I say I'm a grown-up,
You mean it.
I've got a record, but also this. It's easy to take on your enemies. It's harder to take on your friends.
Yes.
I had to take on my friends when I took on the schools. Why? Powerful interests representing adults said to me, well, you don't understand. These kids are English language learners. These kids are poor. Their mother doesn't have a credit card. They don't have financial stability. And I said, well, hold it, you're talking about my mama. And I can read and write. So I fought my own friends to improve. We had some high schools. We had some high schools that had been failing for 2 generations. And the answer was, well, they're poor. I said, well, no, hold it. No, that ain't good enough. So it takes a grown-up to make those tough calls.
Yes.
So I won't say who's the kid. I'll just say I'm the only grown-up in this room.
Not only are you a candidate, you are a comedian, I see. So California spent $24 billion on homelessness, and the numbers only went up. You've been critical of this. As a leader, how do you look at taxpayer in the eye and explain where that money went without admitting the system is fundamentally broken?
Jay, we spent $24 billion from the state, not counting the billions we spent in other cities and counties on top of that. And during that period, homelessness went up.
Wow.
I tell people, and then they had an audit. There was only 2 programs that they could demonstrate were working. One of them was a rental assistance program, so that to help people when they're on the verge of going homeless and losing their apartment or home. And the other one was Home Key, which was a program of temporary housing using hotels and motels for people to get off the street. So I tell people, we can't just throw money at the problem. The fact is we should invest in what works and not throw money at what doesn't work. Yes. And when they did that audit, they couldn't really say what was working. Yeah. And so what I've said is we need to do a couple things. I don't believe we should criminalize homelessness. I do believe we should have compassion, but I say this. We can't have chaos on the streets.
Yeah.
What is chaos? Selling drugs in front of cops with no repercussions, that's chaos.
Yeah.
What is chaos? Putting encampments in front of parks and schools. We know what neighborhoods are going in, Jay. They're going in our neighborhoods. They're not
Yes.
going in the affluent neighborhoods. So I said no to that. And then finally, the reason why we have so many mentally ill people on the streets is because Ronald Reagan got rid of the mental hospitals 60 years ago. That's true. But guess what? We've been in office for 28 years. How come we haven't opened up some? So I said the next governor is going to have to do more housing. And by the way, you should know, Grownup again, I did more homeless housing in 8 years during a recession than they did the 12 years before that. More market rate, workforce, and affordable as well. The fact is we got to build again. But we also need care courts, which are courts for mentally ill people, because some of these people are a threat to themselves and others, and they've been locked in a locked mental institution where they're getting care and treatment. It's not humane or progressive for people to live on the streets in their own poop. I'm sorry. So I'm running down the common sense lane.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you just brought that up because recently you shifted towards the accountability of criminal justice, supporting Proposition 36. Some say you're moving right, others say you're just being realistic. Which is it? Are we healing the state by putting more people in jail, or did we just lose control of the streets?
It's a good question. So let me tell you about me. I'm the former president of the ACLU of Southern California. I'm against the death penalty. I'm the guy that took on 3 strikes you're out in the legislature in the 90s when I was speaker. I took on the criminal, the prison industrial complex back then. I got behind the biggest juvenile justice bill, $100 million to address juvenile justice. I got behind the camps for young people. Instead of sending them to California Youth Authority, which we no longer have, but where 78% of them, come back again and again and again, we send them to camps where they're getting treatment and support, and 78% of them don't come back. So I got a record on a progressive record on crime. But this is what was happening in our cities here in California. People were stealing on drugs once, twice, 3, 4, 5, multiple times, 6, 7, refusing drug treatment and no repercussions. So people pushed back, and what we said was this: you steal and you're on drugs, we'll try to give you help the first time. You do it a second time, we'll give you help the second time. You do it a third time, we'll give you help. But if you keep on refusing that help, those are the people that go to jail, not the ones who agree to get help and steal. The people that refuse 3 times go. And they don't stay there forever. It's not life sentences. It's a year or 2. And then they want to get treatment. They get to come out. So it's a big difference than, 3 strikes you're out and some of those things. And what I've said is we got to fund the treatment programs because, there's no question, because of poverty and other things. It's more of us. It's more of our families. But I've said we've got to be humane in providing that treatment.
Wow. You were the first Latino mayor of LA in over 130 years. Right now, there's a tension between the Black and brown communities regarding resources and political power. How do you lead a state when every group feels like they're being left behind by the other?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. I told you at 15 that I got involved with the Black Student Union. At 25, I was working for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, enforcing our discrimination laws in employment. I got elected president of a union that was like 70% African American.
Wow.
I was 25 years old. Then in the 1980s, with Mark Ridley Thomas, an assembly member, a city council member, you know, been elected many years, we started the Latino Black Roundtable. My whole life, I've been, and I told you about my relationship with Karen Bass. I have been working on that coalition. So this is what I tell people. We live together. And when you live together, you know, sometimes we fight it out. But
Yeah.
it's not racial. It's about fighting over, you know, territory, drugs.
Yeah.
And it's not fighting because you're black and brown. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen too, but in LA, the vast majority of people, blacks, are killed by blacks. Latinos are killed by Latinos. It's not the other way around. So it's not a war. But so I said, if white people live with us, we'd be fighting with them too. Whenever there's issue, why? Because there's poverty, because there's a limited number of jobs, because of the resources. When I was mayor, I always promoted the notion that, look, we're stronger together. We're not exactly the same. We got different, lot of things, but you know, we're sitting with high unemployment. We're sitting with education graduation rates that are very comparable, home ownership rates that are comparable, prison rates that are comparable. We need to work together. So, you know, I've been that advocate, but sometimes, you know, when I first got elected, there was a racial riot at Jefferson High School in South LA. And you know what it started over?
What's that?
Fighting over a girl. Swear to God, it started over that. And then people started fighting. I came in. I had just gotten elected, but I wasn't sworn in. And I sat down with the kids. The cops were there. I sat down with the kids. And after that, that school was a place where people, you know, there's always that kind of tension. And the first thing you look at, what are the differences? But there's a lot more things we have in common
Right.
than we have the differences.
Wow. So people are fleeing California from places like Nashville, Dallas, Houston because they can't afford to breathe in LA or San Francisco. If you become governor, are you prepared to tell the special interest group that their regulations are killing the California dream of the working class?
From the day I announced my candidacy, I said, I'm running because we need a proven problem solver. We need to fix this affordability crisis. And
Yes.
and at the convention, the Democratic convention here in San Francisco a few weeks ago, I said the following: this affordability crisis, where people can't afford rent, where our children who used to be able to buy a home maybe in their mid 20s, early 30s, now their dream is a crowded apartment with 3 roommates. And for too many families, it's 2 families to an apartment. And so what I said is, this happened under our watch, Jay. I called this out. I said it happened under our watch, and I'm running for governor because I'm willing to take responsibility and fix it. The fact is, I've been taking on those interests. You know, I've taken on look, I said this yesterday at a debate. It's easy to fight your opponents, to fight the people that don't vote for you or don't like you. It's harder to fight your friends.
Yes.
You're a traitor. But when you know, what I've had the courage of, and again, it takes a grown up to say to my friends, when we're wrong, we're wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Accountability.
we got to be accountable for our mistakes. And yes, it's happened. My lady grew up in Ottawa, Tennessee, just outside of Chattanooga. I don't know if you know where that is, Ottawa. And she came here from New York, and well, I think by way, and then Dallas, and then here. So she went the other way.
She
But
been on tour.
the vast majority of people are going from California to Nashville to Miami to Dallas to everywhere but here.
Yeah,
And so there are people coming here too, but they're usually more affluent.
yeah.
The middle class is leaving because they just can't afford this place. And we got to change that because this is a great place. Let me tell you, California and LA is the bomb. You
Yep.
know, I tell you, I'm a West Coast guy, so Tupac and Kendrick,
Oh yeah.
they're from here. Those
Oh
are
yeah.
big poets. They're from here, brother. And let me tell you something. This is a great city. It's a great state, but we got to restore the luster to the California dream.
Wow. You've called Donald Trump a threat to democracy. If he's in the White House while you're in the governor's mansion, are you going to spend 4 years fighting him, or are you going to work across the aisle like your campaign slogan says?
I believe that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. His attack on DEI
Oh man.
is really attack on civil rights.
Oh man.
It's not, look, we all know if you and I had a business, would we want to hire Black and Latinos? Of course, but we want to hire good people.
Yes.
Nobody's just hiring Blacks or Latinos or Asians or women because, just to get to a number.
Yep.
What we say is we got talent too. And that talent comes in all flavors. So will we take them on with these ICE raids, which are ugly, tearing children from their arms of their moms in schools and hospitals and courthouses? Will we take him on when he's going after late night talk show hosts because they're criticizing them? Will we take him on when he tries to gerrymander in states so that they can get a few more votes and keep the House and the Senate and then win his election? Will we take them on when he says mail-in ballots in California are going to be eliminated? Yeah, we're going to take them on. But I tell people there are a lot of problems we have in this state that happened long before Donald Trump.
Yes.
We need to fix our problem, clean up our house so that we can convince people that we got to push back on him. So yes, I'm going to defend our democracy. Obama used to say something that I love. I used to say it as well, but he was president and I wasn't. So I used to say it as well because I was a history major. I say this: the founding fathers, and there were mothers too, talked about all men are created equal, and that's what they meant. All men. They didn't mean women. Blacks were 3/5 of a human being in their eyes, and Native Americans were not citizens. At the end of the day, those words have been words we've been chasing down the Civil War,
Yes.
the rights movement, to make America all that it's held itself out to be. I'm a proud American, and I'm going to fight for her, my brother. I believe in democracy. I believe that you can criticize the president, that nobody's above the law, that you can't steal and be a grifter while you're in office and expect that you're not going to get challenged. But at the same time, I believe in taking responsibility because I grew up in that era.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. People are leaving this state because things are broken. And we need somebody to come back in, a grown-up, to fix them.
Wow. Let me ask you this one last question. What is the one truth about yourself that you've been terrified to say out loud during this campaign?
The one thing that I've been terrified out loud to say, I tell you what that is. I'm a history buff. I told you that a few minutes ago. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries on the Civil War.
Wow.
And I tell people, civil war is not an option. And what I'm feeling more and more in this state and in the country, we're so polarized. People don't want to talk to one another, Jay.
Yep.
They don't want to listen to one another. They just want to fight. And I actually told this to my lady the other day. I said, civil war is not an option. I asked her, what war did more Americans die in? Young people say Iraq, Afghanistan. People my age, people your age say Vietnam. People my age say World War II. Guess what? More people died in the Civil War than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam.
Wow, I did not know that.
More than 600,000 people died.
Wow.
And I tell people, when brother fights brother, that's not a war and a battle that we want to be in. So I think what I'm afraid to say is that we're moving down a path where all we're doing is screaming at each other, calling each other's names. There's a level of violence that's occurring in our political world that's scary. So I think that's something I've been hesitant to say, but you asked me, so I'm telling you now.
Wow. And like the great prophet Sean Carter, Jay-Z said, nobody wins from family feuds.
That's exactly right. And we could be white or black, Latino or Asian, gay or straight. At the end of the day, we're American, and we got to fight for America.
Yes.
For all that she's held herself out
Yes.
to be, my brother.
Yes.
And I'm here today because there's a Voting Rights Act and a Civil Rights Act that opened up the country to me. And I'll leave you with this. I tell people all the time, to whom much is given, much is expected. You said I was the first and the only Latino mayor of Los Angeles. True. The first in 133 years, or now a lot longer. And I tell people I'm only the second Speaker of the California State Assembly in modern times, and served longer than the one before me. And what I can tell you is this. The role of the first is not to bang on your chest and say how great I am. I came here on the shoulders of a civil rights movement that opened up the country to me and you and others.
Yes.
And our job is to keep the door open and keep others walking through that door. That's why I'm running. That's why I believe we need a proven problem solver and a grown-up.
Yes.
Who will acknowledge we're the fourth largest economy in the world. We should brag about that, and we do.
Yeah.
But it's unacceptable to have the highest poverty rate in America with Louisiana and a cost of living that's just driving people out.
Wow. Mr. Governor, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. I'm already claiming it for you. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for having me on your podcast. And I heard you had my friend Mayor Bottoms running for governor as well.
Yes.
And I'm just happy to be with you. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, and when you get in the governor's mansion, I want to get you back on the show.
We'll do an hour-long program then.
Yes. I appreciate you, Mr. Mayor.
God bless you, brother.
Goodbye.